Hey, it's Twyla. Today we're going to talk about inner child work because we actually all have a lot in common. For instance, our dads didn't pull out. Also, our mothers, this isn't even alcohol, just very carbonated. Oh, there's a ping pong face right there. But our mothers probably went through a lot for us, right? Some of our moms even resented us for how much they endured. Or maybe, you know, my fellow neurodivergents, maybe our mom or our dad were neurodivergent themselves, and that's why they might have snapped on us or had less patience. And I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just making the distinction that it wasn't you who deserved that. Or if you're not neurodivergent, you should never snap at a child. Not that I never ever have, even if it's just losing your temper very quickly and just being too stern. So I'm not trying to claim perfection, but having said all of that, I tried to open with a couple jokes. We'll see if those land. But our inner child needs a lot of understanding because we probably were very criticized as children. And so when we explore this topic, the first thing we need to drop is shame. Shame, guilt, probably your mom, but maybe even your dad. Like, they're critical voices that are in your head. Their voices shaped you when you were very little. And our personality, it's said to be formed by the time we're about 7. And our worldview is usually pretty constructed by around that time as well. And of course, we add on to that as we get older. But that foundation gets established very, very young. And so we really underestimate the power that people have, and the big ways that they can fail if they send their kids out into the world without these fundamental, that's the key word, fundamental things that they need. And I've had to do a lot of inner child work the last maybe 3 or 4 years. And I've done it through a way of plant medicine and sessions alone, in the dark, just with my thoughts. And I would lay there for 5 or 6 hours and I would put everything into voice memos into my phone, and then I would transcribe it all and put it into special notebooks of mine in the following days. I've touched on that in a few of my videos because I grew up without parents, without siblings, without a good family, and I've had to learn where I can. And the internet raised me a lot, and YouTube, Reddit, just kidding. I be lurking some Reddit threads lately though, because they do get juicy. But on a serious note, you shouldn't let the internet form your worldview. I'm just emphasizing that I didn't get a lot of the skills that I needed going into the world. So I've had to learn those, and I've learned a lot of them through plants. You have to make it into a sacred ceremony yourself. You don't have to book a trip to another continent, and you don't even have to ingest anything. Just creating that sacred space and scanning yourself, seeing what is hindering you, where these wounds are coming from. When something hits that emotional one, maybe one of many, maybe you just have one big one like me. If something brushes up against that emotional soft spot that we all have, that is a trigger, and the internet seems to be almost a little too familiar with triggers. It has come up almost as like a buzzword lately, the last few years. But hold on, this is a really triggering video. Sorry, I have like pictures of me and my family like on the floor that I'm gonna get into, but it's just like really, it's been a very triggering topic, but I know that it's valuable. This will probably be the first in a little series. But so what was I saying? Sorry. So our inner children, our worldview, we need to be nurturing, we need to drop shame. I've had to look to the plants, and the last few like ceremonies that I've kind of had, like I was saying, you don't have to ingest anything. You don't have to alter yourself in any way, but just creating a sacred space with that intention of kind of scanning your emotional body and your physical body, because they're very closely linked. You can look into chakras and all of that stuff, but the energy centers in the body, you know, that mostly is an Eastern thing, and in the West we've really lost touch with that. But you guys can think I'm rambling or kind of beating around the bush, but this is such a huge topic, and this is how I am choosing to swan dive into it. I just need to give credit where credit is due, so you don't have to go that route. A lot of these experiences are just going to be implied from this point on, that is in fact what was happening, and where I got them, we'll just say like from these ancient teachers, because yeah, I pretty much had to raise myself in my adult life. So if that sounds like you, please stick around. So let's start. Well, I'll show you a picture of me when I was younger and kind of where I fit in with my family. I remember this was one that was circulating, don't look at my nails, was circulating on greeting cards, maybe, or like in a frame. This was a very prominent picture in my childhood. And if you see little Twyla at the bottom there, like, does nobody care if I was, you know, even looking at the camera or smiling? You know, and I don't know if you saw all of their smiles, but sorry, I'm like so triggered right now. I think I'm trying to play it off, but I just know that this is going to be a challenge to get through. And it's okay if you're triggered right now. You know, maybe you're the one that felt out of place with your family, and like no one cared whether or not you were even in the picture. Like, oh, get Twyla in here. You know, look again, everyone's interlocking. You know? Like, it looks like I have a disease or something in that picture because no one's touching me. And you know what? I chose to show that picture, one, because I don't think I put it in that other video, which I'll link down below, of some more inner child work, but I had that one left over, and I just wanted to show it because I think that a picture does show a lot, and that is how I felt my whole childhood. And in a lot of the pictures you'll see of me, I wasn't having a good time. This is one where you can't really say that it was just a fluke, you know? Of like it was obviously someone taking the picture saying smile, and I never did. And now everyone's super shocked that I have autism, and they think that I'm just making it up to be special. And you're gonna have to take people's criticism head on and just realize you have to just say in your head, up yours. Don't say it out loud, but just say in your head, up yours, you know? You have to be a strong woman, a strong person, and get through those situations. No one pities you. Not today. We should. As human beings, we should. But today, the world isn't set up like that. So in a lot of these experiences with these ancient teachers that I had, I got to see her. And I got to see little Twyla again. And I saw her probably around 8 to 10 years old in these visions. And one of the first assignments they gave to me was to just hold her. And I had this experience where I got to hold her. And I held her and held her and held her, and I apologized to her. And I said, don't worry, I'm so sorry. Because in my head, simultaneously, when I was seeing her, I was, you know, little Twyla at around 8 to 10. I was thinking now as a grown-ass woman what it's like when I see 8 to 10-year-olds running around. And to imagine all of that trauma, that abuse, those atrocious, unspeakable things that happened to that little girl. Did you know that I had a family member, trigger warning, animal abuse. Did you know that I had a family member that used to torture animals in front of me as a child and make me watch? And they would physically harm me if I told anyone or looked away. And it was puppies, bunnies, cats. I'm not going to get more into that because, but I am a badass bitch. I have been through so much shit, and a lot of it happened when I was tiny like that, and I didn't have a choice, and that's what makes me sick. Sorry. And so in this experience, I kind of saw both, and I saw her as truly that age. It's hard to see us as that age because we're us in our head. That's all, like, oh, that's me. No, but see that little child that is not a fully formed human being, physically or mentally. They don't know all these games that we do, these manipulation tactics that adults use. They need to be protected at all costs. That's why my blood boils when I know that she wasn't protected. And that's why I have this platform. That's what I set out to do. Go look at my first few videos. I've been on this mission and it's fueled by anger. And my therapist said that he doesn't think it's my anger. He thinks that it's generations of anger, generations of neurodivergent anger. Autistic people, he said this today. He said that autistic people are generational curse breakers because we can look at the truth. And it's up to us, and it is no easy task, and you're going to be misunderstood, but keep going. Keep going. But that inner child, you need to hold him, you need to hold her, you need to nurture. Nurture, nurture, nurture. No judgment. If they're bawling in your arms, let them bawl in your arms. Rock them back and forth like a mother or a father would. You have to be the parent to, like, you have to hold that in the vision. You don't have to necessarily see you as an adult, but if you're envisioning yourself holding that person, that little girl or little boy. Another vision that I had, I can't remember if it was that experience or another one, but it was like a image of Russian dolls, like a little Russian doll, and inside were smaller versions of myself. And they told me, you know, these ancient teachers told me that this was probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I've been processing it ever since. And they said, she's always inside of you, just like a Russian doll. All those smaller versions of you are inside at all times. This that you're seeing, this Twyla, this is just the outer shell. All of those little Twylas are inside of me at all times, and I have them. I've got them now. I'm not letting these people fuck around with them anymore, and neither should you. Sorry, I'm gonna try to keep it appropriate, but I am sweating. I am so mad. I'm sweating in my little silky kimono. What a lady. But this lady is fueled by a lot of anger, and I'm getting so much judgment on the internet because people, oh, a woman's angry, she's a bitch. Oh, a woman's angry, or a woman's in distress, what a whiner. She just wants sympathy. No, I'm trying to figure all this shit out, and I'm trying to help a few people along the way. And I'm catching so much judgment, but it's not like, oh, look at me. It's okay. People are gonna get it wrong. People are gonna get it wrong, and you're just gonna have to sit with that. But you have that little person now always inside of you, and you need to protect them. No more chips for dinner. If you were, I'm talking to myself right now, if you were watching an 8 to 10-year-old, would you toss them a bag of chips and call it good? Okay, go to bed now. No. So why are we doing that? So that's why I have to visualize the Russian doll thing with all these little versions of myself inside at all times. And I remember they said, you can, when you're running, she's with you. She's inside of you. When you're running, when you're swimming. In other words, she's moving with my body is kind of what, you know, these things from these ancient teachers, they're not necessarily communicated in words. It's more of like just a message that's kind of downloaded. And so I'm trying my best to articulate. But there was very much like Russian dolls. There was more symbolism of lots of trees, rings on a tree. Similarly, all of those little rings are maybe, you know, I like to think of that. Technically, it would be every year, right? Would be the rings on a tree. But I think of bark, you know, and something so tough that protects the tree. And so I think that my rings, if you cut me and you looked inside, you know, if I was a tree, my barks would be all those years that, you know, I had to kind of callous myself. And I got through some really nasty, tough shit all by myself. No siblings. A lot of times I didn't have friends. Sometimes I had an animal. But no fucking family ever emotionally. They were there physically, but a lot of times I wish that they weren't. You know, so it's a very complex thing to have to raise yourself. And only certain people will know truly what I'm talking about when I say that. And if that's you, I commend you. Because this is not easy. Every fucking day is a challenge. I'm mom and dad and Twyla all at once trying to get her through it. Thank God for medication. At least ADHD meds, because my brain does not work. I am like a child trapped in an adult body, and this is where it gets really sticky, because neurodivergence can cause executive functioning, it can cause overwhelm, it can come with maybe you don't prioritize tasks correctly or in order, like a standard order, what other people would. Maybe you're not focused, things like that. Maybe you might get lost. I have a hard time driving myself places a lot of time. It's just, and I use a lot of substances to get through what I'm having to do right now in my life with no one. I've been real about that. I'm not currently under the influence. I was in my last video, I'm not gonna lie. It was 9 a.m. and I was like 1.5 margs in. You know, margs being like, you invite Marg, I'll invite Rita. You know what I mean? At 9 a.m. Like, just because I had tried to record that video 2 or 3 times and I was like, oh, quit being so weird. I was being so hateful to myself. And I am a lot of the time. And that's because I was always criticized when I was young, making sure I'm not hanging out here. Not that there's much to hang out, but I don't want my little sports bra showing. But yeah, so you're going to have to start there, and you're just going to have to see them. And I have so much more to get into, but this truly is the starting point. I did some other visualization exercises where it was right after the autism diagnosis this last year, and you know, none of my family validated it. None of my friends, even my really, really close ones, they took their family's side, because their families are that great generation right now, 40s, 50s, 60s, stubborn as hell. Neurodivergence doesn't exist to them. We're just faking it for attention. We just want to be special. We're lazy. We don't want to get a job, blah, 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 right? I hear that everywhere I turn. You know, so, but it was right after all of that. So basically lost everyone in my life is what I'm trying to say. And after that, I did this visualization exercise and I saw little Twyla as a little girl. And she was running around almost in like a hotel or apartment building hallway with lots of doors. And they were open, but each time I ran to a door to be lifted up, like my vantage point was down low. So that's how I know that I was young in this vision or whatever. No substances involved, by the way. It was just, you know, I closed my eyes and really tried to kind of put myself that visualization. Like, our minds are so powerful, especially females. Like, you really need to tap into that. But anywho, so I saw myself running from door frame to door frame, and it would slam. The door would slam in my face every time. And it was like at least 5 or 6 doors, you know, and then I kind of got the picture, and you know, the vision ended or whatever, or I broke it down with my therapist or whatever happened after that. But yeah, it was just all of the, and that I've been breaking down ever since, because obviously everyone's first thought is like, oh, that was your caregivers, blah, 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 you're feeling alone, blah, 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 like psychoanalyzing it. But, you know, I think just in general, like even now, I keep reliving that feeling. If it's not with my family, it's with my friends. If it's not with my friends, it's with the internet. Just begging, asking for help. Somebody, please. That small child desperate energy of not having the resources that you need, and knowing that you need their help, and that they have plenty of resources, but they don't want to help. They don't. Even if that's not they want to harm you, they just probably are more concerned with themselves. And a lot of people on the internet, sorry, I'm not gonna step on any toes here, not gonna get controversial, but a lot of people just don't like seeing you succeed. They don't think that you should have help. So it's not that they're plotting my downfall, but if I'm begging for help, they didn't get help. They still have to go to their job. They still have to be in their shitty relationship and pay for their kids, you know? Their money is theirs. Why should they give it to me when I'm just living my dream, right? I get it. Loud and clear, you know? But anywho, I've relived this all over, even in the last month, running from door to door to door, slam, slam, slam. That, and it's not so much the vision, it's the feeling, the hopelessness, the desperation. And why I bring that specifically up is because that's the first thing that my brain picked up on, whatever I was supposed to see when I asked to be shown. We have to have eyes to see, you know, and a lot of that, it's not these eyes. It's more of, you know, spiritual eyes, or whatever you believe. It's 2025, man. There's so many different approaches out there, but you really need to see. And I was able to see in that vision that that's how I felt with partners. When I was freshly 18 and I had no skills, I have a secure attachment style now, but I've had to work very hard for that. And when I was first 18, a decade ago, I did not. And that feeling of the doors slamming, that feeling of hopelessness, desperation, just despair, that feeling is exactly what I got when I was in a fight with a partner and they walked out on me, even if they just went down the hall. And it was so hard for me to just stay put and not freak out because that was triggering everything. Not to mention, in my childhood, everyone just put me in a room to scream when I was tiny. Like, we're talking a toddler. Just cry it out. And they would laugh at me. And they would turn up the radio over my cries in the car. And they would mock, like, the crying sounds that I was making. And there were tears pouring down my face. Like, this was not, like, the sympathy. Like, I know the difference. I've nannied, I've worked with children for years and years and years. Even when I was a child, I was choosing to babysit because I just loved being around them. I don't get to be a mother. I don't get the privilege of being a mother. One, because I have autism, and I feel like that's not the most ethical route for me. Just my specific breed of autism, I would never want to pass this down. And also, it's just not a world for it. I can't, this is getting so controversial, but I can't send a little person out there in this world and tell them to stick up for what's right, because I know that the world is going to, it's going to eat them up and spit them out in a million little pieces like it did to me. Because if you are autistic, you have that drive for truth and what's good and what's pure. And you always just want people to be up front like you. And that's not the world that we live in. And I know what people like that are capable of being on the receiving end of. And I would never, ever, ever want to even risk that. So I can't be a mother, but I've always felt like that was my purpose. I talked about how I wanted to join the military and everything in my last video. That was my, kind of plan B. But my plan A my whole life was I wanted to be, all of us are wired that way. And so I've had, my heart broken a couple times in that way of just like I wasn't able to live out my two, biggest dreams for my life. And then this is probably, I don't know, plan E, F, G, I'm not sure, but we're down the list now, but that was, and it's very painful that I didn't, and I'm not going to ever get to live those out. I shouldn't say that, anything's possible, but, so anyways, we have to use that mothering ability and that nurturing nature about ourselves, or, fatherly energy, is neutral, loving energy, whatever you have to give that to your smaller self. And you have to feel that going inside to her, to him, to them. There's a stream always surrounding yourself. And this is where it gets kind of, because it all loops together. I got to keep an eye on the time. I'm going to wrap it up. But, a lot of us have to be that for ourselves, and we can still be a nurturing maternal light, in my case, in this world without children. And it's been very, very difficult to find my place, and I'm getting so much judgment, but that's what I signed up for by letting it all hang out on the internet. But I know that people are benefiting from it, and that's what matters. And I'm not gonna stop. Because a strong woman, she knows what she's made of, even if no one else does. And I just have to keep telling myself, they're gonna get it wrong. In time, it's gonna come out. Don't rush. You don't know how badly I just want to record 10 videos a day telling you guys all about my life so no one gets it wrong and and over-explaining, but that's not beneficial for me. That's not healthy for me. I shouldn't have to chase. I shouldn't have to prove myself. So it's like, here I am. I'm a badass, and you're a badass. And it's okay to know that and not let people fuck with it. No one can take that from me. Y'all are trying really hard. I commend you. But it's not budging. I'm secure now. But I was not. And when my partners would walk away from me, or maybe it was just a perceived abandonment, I would be like grabbing for alcohol, grabbing for a substance, pills. I would take 3, even if I was only prescribed 1, like these chill pills. Oh my gosh, it was just, I could not hang. No coping skills. I just wanted out. Whether that's intoxication or, that was mine a lot of the time. Just, oh gosh, my brain, don't want to think about that. Some people sleep, some people work out even to avoid these things. And like sleeping, working out, that's not unhealthy, but it's just, what are you running from? What are you running from? So I really had to, in conclusion, I think I've talked about this, but on another one of these like ceremonies from our ancient teachers, they told me that I was transitioning from the maiden to the mother. And it was very clear that even though I don't have children, I am childbearing age. Like I am 28 years old now. There are people with little 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds even, So it happens. That could be me. My body is capable of that. My mind is capable of that, which is wild. I know I would step into it because kids like turn off my own issues. I don't know what it is. I just want to pour everything I have into them. And I know that they wouldn't understand if I was in a bad mood. And so I don't bother being in a bad mood. And then usually their good moods rub off on me every single time. That's why we have to protect them. That's why I get so passionate about these huge issues, is because these schools are twisted. Firearms in our schools. People spreading misinformation to our kids. That should piss all of us off, whether you have kids or not. And I'm gonna stay professional and a lady and not lose my shit at the end of this video, but people need to wake up. So I've really stepped into that mother phase. And before that was like 2 or 3 years ago, like I said, before that, I felt like a full-blown child. I had no boundaries. I had no sense of self-respect, self-worth. I couldn't stand up for myself, even if they got my food wrong. Sometimes I would order a weird thing just because I didn't want to order what I really wanted, whether that was with no blah, 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 or extra this. I felt like a burden, even though I'm paying for it. How sick. That's how I was raised. I couldn't even order for myself. If they fucked up my food, I would just eat it. It didn't matter if that thing made me sick. Because I'm like, oh, they're going to punish me. They're going to spit in my food if I send it back. No one taught me. No one taught me to report it when someone sexually abuses me. I got sexually harassed at work when I was 18. Guys slapping my ass, kissing me in the back that were my managers. Older than me, I was 18. And I never pressed charges because I didn't realize how effed up that was. Not only the age gap between me and them, but the fact that they were above me. I was a manager too, but they were still above me, and it was all of them, and they all had this weird competition. And when I would leave, they would go, and then the other one would go, and they would all try to grab my butt, and they would touch it. And then in my adult life, I chased people who were straight up like abusers. And now that I know how to see it, I could have spotted it on the first date, but no one ever taught me that. So I'm going to teach you, because I've been through the fucking ringer now, and I have some shit to say. And I'm sorry if it's going to get sticky in here. I do not give a shit anymore. Stay or go. There's the door, baby. But if you want to get your shit together, hit subscribe. And no, that's not a little plot. It's not a little joke. I mean it. If you're done with all this shit and you're ready to heal and to take your power back from them, these sick, twisted fucks, why don't you subscribe or consider it? But anywho, you have to really embody that parent in order to not be living like a child, in a childlike mindset. I didn't trust myself to make a decision. I had this weird disconnect from myself where I felt like I couldn't navigate in public. I felt wrong, like being in a grocery store alone in my 20s, because I felt like I did not have even just the vigilance to keep myself safe, to use the right credit card. Still, I swipe the wrong card sometimes because I'm so, I swipe the wrong card. I'll forget something and I'll put myself, it won't go on my food stamps card, you know, and I'll put myself $200 in the hole because I swiped the wrong card at a grocery trip, you know. But not only that, I've gotten taken advantage of a lot as an adult. I can't even get into it, but it's because my fucking caregivers didn't give very much care. They didn't give a shit whether I got through this world successful or not, safe, alive. They say that they do because they're supposed to say that, but it's for their image. They don't necessarily believe it. I'm not saying that my family wished harm on me, but everyone knows that if you don't give kids discernment and you don't encourage them and make them feel capable, they're going to go into the world not feeling capable. So that's why I opened with that. Like, start there. You know, I'm going to try to film another one of these real quick. But yeah, start there. I have a really nice little letter that I wrote myself last year, not for this video, and I haven't read it since writing it last year to little Twyla. So I'm going to get into that in this next video. Check it out. But thanks. Appreciate it. Lots of love. How do I end these things? I forgot. You want a hug? Sure, let's do that. Sorry, guys, I have autism still. It's showing. But yeah, take care. I'll see you soon.